Hello everybody, it's George from Ireland. Welcome back to my channel. This video is about Taiwan, the Republic of China as it styles itself. Now, Pete Hegseth, the United States Secretary of Defense, embattled alcoholic facing numerous charges of um, alcohol abuse whilst he was a military officer and of gross insecurity whilst in post as Defense Secretary. He said that the People's Republic of China poses an imminent threat to Taiwan, and he's encouraged other Asia Pacific countries to increase their military spending and to collaborate with the United States for the purpose of preventing a war in the South China Sea. Nevertheless, he insists that Washington, D.C. does not want to overmaster the Chinese, nor indeed to throttle China. Will the United States fight for Taiwan? It's unclear. I mean, I think not. Trump is always on about how he's president, even though he's launched airstrikes in Iraq against Iranian targets, against Syria and elsewhere, not fought ground wars. And he's the one who struck that deal with the Taliban to withdraw, that Biden implemented, and then Trump was suddenly said it was the wrong thing to do. So I don't see the Trump administration fighting over this one. And indeed, Trump is the one who humiliated himself and the free world by going to meet Kim Jong-un, which didn't lead to a good outcome, would just gave some sort of false respectability to the so-called People's Democratic Republic of Korea, the most cruelly oppressive regime in the world. Nevertheless, is Taiwan part of China or not? Well, it is, according to almost every country and the United Nations. There are about 8 countries recognize Taiwan. Now, I realize that Taiwan is admirable in many ways, is a full democracy, completely different to China, and economically very, very impressive. These days, has an excellent human rights record. Now, until Chiang Kai-shek died in 1975, I wouldn't have said that. So, and it has about a third of the world's microprocessors. But there's the one child policy, one China policy. The one child is a bit different. Beijing said, you can recognize us or you can recognize Taiwan. You cannot recognize both. There is one China. The People's Republic of China, proclaimed in October 1949 by Mao Zedong, Zhu Xi, is the rightful government of the whole of China, and that includes Taiwan. Now, so that the Taiwan that's the a holdover from the Kuomintang, the Chinese nationalists who fled to the island of Formosa after losing the Chinese Civil War. And they claim to be the continuation of the Republic of China with its proclamation in 1911. And they too say they're the rightful government of the whole of China, the mainland too. They only control an island under 1% of China's area and 2% of the Chinese population. So even Taiwan doesn't declare itself to be independent. That previous president, I forget the woman's name, she came very close to it, but she was warned by the PRC not to do so. So, Republic of Ireland, obviously, we recognized the People's Republic of China a long time ago. One of the advantages about our defense forces being so small is we don't get involved in these tussles abroad. We do some United Nations missions. And by the way, I was delighted that Sean Clancy, one of our generals, he's now in charge of the European Union's military committee. I mean, the EU has a semi-military, should it have it or not? As a Eurosceptic, I want the Republic to withdraw. But that not being so, I sometimes think the European Union has to go one way or the other, either be a full federation or just break up. And as the Irish Republic leaving is impossible, I mean, wonder whether deeper integration is better. But back to the topic of Far Cathay. So I would suggest the countries do not fight for Taiwan. Taiwan may well be able to win on its own. Now, the Americans have said they've wargamed this with computer simulations and have Taiwan winning 2 times out of 3, sinking so many Chinese warships that the People's Republic of China is not able to bring the island to heel. So China says that Taiwan is part of China. That is it. That is the end of the story. That is that. There's no 2 ways about it. There shall be no compromise. It's a renegade province. It must be brought back to the motherland and so forth. So it's a very, very emotive topic. And if you tell a Chinese Taiwan is a country, the reaction will be furious. Taiwan is not a country. Taiwan is part of China. Taiwan is a province of China. Stuff like that. This has been dinned into the drilled. There'll be a temper tantrum if you say that. So I don't know. Even in the late 90s, when relations between the United States and China were becoming cordial, when relations between European countries and China were warming up, Tiananmen Square was no longer a massacre was no longer so pertinent, and this is the real hot button issue for them. Don't fight for them. It could cause a third world war. They've got nukes. Would they use them? I hope not, but there's a chance that they would. And plus, the world cannot contain two, superpowers, almost superpowers. Okay, China really is a superpower. Russia's not. It's a second-rate power. I mean, like the United Kingdom is that, Republic of Ireland, or even third rate. I mean, maybe not militarily, economically, we are culturally, we're a superpower, the Irish Republic. But anyway, so coming back to Taiwan, don't fight for it. I mean, I know if I was the Taiwanese, because okay, so what do you need? You need to have food, so you need to have aeroponics. You don't have a lot of land, and it's quite craggy, the island. We need energy, because oil and gas can be cut off. A blockade is what the Chinese might want to do rather than invasion, first of all. So make sure you have enough solar power, wind power, wave power. You are an island. And the other one is to be able to make money. So set up microprocessors overseas, all the factories, and you can make money from that and withstand the siege. To be able to, you have to be able to sink enough Chinese warships to shoot down enough planes, and indeed that you have to retaliate by having missiles like cruise missiles you can fire at the Chinese mainland. So then they're spending like mad on that, but they don't have people to do it. I thought if I was them, I'd hire people, friendly people from the Philippines, military veterans, and say you can come to Taiwan, you can get Taiwanese citizenship, but as the Philippines doesn't officially recognize Taiwan, you just have to say it's for a security job, but only open to ex-military personnel who got their training, and then put them into the armed forces and boost your armed forces. The Taiwanese, they generally don't want to be in their armed forces once they don't want their 1 year military service, these boys. But I would suggest the countries don't intervene, because legally it is Chinese, even though Taiwan is a free country. China is a very unfree country, committing genocide and enslavement against the Uyghur people and so on. And I'm not remotely xenophobic. No nationality is bad. And I know what the Chinese will say. Okay, other governments have done terribly bad things as well. And yes, China was aggressed in the 19th century, the period of the unequal treaties. None of that is justificator of this. Does China have the legal and moral right to retake Taiwan? It's difficult to argue against that, because legally, historically, it is theirs. And even Taiwan doesn't claim to be independent. I know China has wronged other countries, attacking India, for example, or indeed creating these artificial islands in the South China Sea and trying to steal territorial waters belonging to the Philippines. But on this particular occasion, they're in the right. And if I were them, wouldn't it be better to bring Taiwan back by seduction, not abduction? But the terrible example of Hong Kong and Macau, with all these solemn treaties, all the liberties of the people of Hong Kong and Macau to be respected, certainly in Hong Kong for half a century, but the British era freedom has been taken away. Now they're oppressed. The so-called security law, life imprisonment for a suggestion, life imprisonment for making a suggestion. If you think you'd like Hong Kong to become independent, to peacefully, democratically bring that about, and you go to jail for life. Wow, that is just how oppressive and unjust China is. But had they treated the Hong Kongers decently, maybe the Taiwanese might have thought it was not so bad. And there used to be, flights back and forth across the straits. Some Taiwanese people going to the mainland and thinking maybe it's not so bad. Win over the opposition. So I really hope this war doesn't begin, but it may well begin quite soon. Xi Jinping would like to, that's his legacy, to bring it back. He's made speeches about this. He thinks the Western world is distracted, maybe weak-willed, because of what's going on in Ukraine. And the Ukraine war might end in a year or two. And what if China didn't take the opportunity? The Chinese might say, well, now they're no longer distracted by Ukraine. They might actually come to Taiwan's aid. And even the United States is not clear that they would fight for the Taiwanese. I very much doubt that they would. And then if you look, even the British Defense Secretary John Healey was asked, would the United Kingdom fight to defend Taiwan? And he wouldn't give a clear answer, because that's no. The British Armed Forces are far too feeble. They're under-equipped. The British military is puny now compared to what it was in the 90s. Not many disrespect to the service women and service men, but it just doesn't have the assets. So I say, don't fight for Taiwan. I mean, so the Taiwanese may be able to win, maybe not, but there's no need to turn it local war into a world war. Right, thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.